The gun barrel pressed cold against Kimberly's temple, and all she could think about was the secret growing inside her. 8 weeks of life that would never take its first breath if Jae-sung pulled that trigger. "You really thought you could play me?" Jae-sung's voice echoed through the abandoned Incheon warehouse, his breath reeking of soju and rage. "That I wouldn't find out what he really is?" Kimberly's wrists burned against the rope binding her to the metal chair. Through the grimy warehouse windows, Seoul's distant lights blurred through her unshed tears. Her chest felt too tight, heart hammering like it was trying to escape. Then she heard it, the heavy door sliding open. Footsteps she'd learned to recognize in the dark, steady, predatory, his. Min-gi walked in alone, no backup, no weapons she could see. His white shirt was unbuttoned at the collar, that dragon tattoo with Korean script visible along his throat. Bobog. Revenge. The ink that marked him as Cho family, as dangerous, as deadly. Everything about him was a lie, except the way his eyes found hers across that warehouse floor, and something in his carefully controlled expression cracked. Raw, desperate, terrified, for her. "Let her go, Jae-sung," he said quietly, his hands raised. "Your fight is with me." But you want to know how a Columbia graduate with a 4.0 GPA ended up tied to a chair in Incheon, carrying the child of Seoul's most dangerous man? That story starts 4 months earlier, with a pen, a contract, and the worst decision Kimberly Olaniyi ever made. Or maybe the best one. She still couldn't decide. If you're already dying to know how this happened, subscribe now, because the next 4 months show you exactly how a contract marriage becomes an obsession that could destroy them both. 4 months earlier. The pen felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Kimberly stared at the marriage contract spread across the mahogany desk, Korean characters mixed with English translations that made her stomach turn. The study in the Cho family estate smelled like leather, sandalwood incense, and something darker underneath. Power, maybe. Or danger. Across from her sat Cho Min-gi. God, he was beautiful. That was the worst part. Dangerous men weren't supposed to look like fallen angels. Sharp cheekbones catching the lamplight, dark eyes that tracked her every micro-expression, lips pressed into a hard line of controlled violence. 32 years old, 6 feet of lean muscle and casual menace, tattoos peeking from his collar, Korean script winding down his neck, disappearing beneath expensive fabric. He wore his power like other men wore cologne, suffocating, inescapable. "Your father's debt is $3 million. His English was flawless, American educated with just enough soul underneath to make her skin prickle. "Sign this. The debt disappears. Your parents keep their house in Atlanta. Your brother finishes at Morehouse. Your sister's medical school. Tuition at Emory gets paid in full." Kimberly's hands trembled. She dug her nails into her palms. "Don't let him see weakness. And if I refuse?" Min-gi leaned back, and the movement reminded her of big cats before they struck. One hand played with a lighter. Click, click, click. "Then I collect the traditional way." His voice was conversational, pleasant. "Your father first, fingers, then hands, then your mother. Your siblings last so they can watch what happens when people don't pay what they owe me." The casual way he said it made bile rise in her throat. "This is insane," she whispered. "Arranged marriages to settle debts, that's exactly how my world works, Miss Olaniyi." He stood, and suddenly the desk between them felt insufficient. He was taller than she'd realized, moving like violence was always 3 seconds away, tattoos winding up his forearms. "You Americans think your laws apply everywhere. They don't. Not in my soul." Her father had gambled everything away at Min-gi's underground casino over 6 months. $3 million. The kind of catastrophic stupid that came from addiction and desperation. Here's what matters about Kimberly. She'd spent 26 years being the responsible one, the eldest daughter who put herself through Columbia on scholarships and 3 jobs, the one who fixed everything, but she couldn't fix this, not without selling herself. How long? Her voice came out steadier than she felt. Mingi stopped directly in front of her chair. This close, she could smell his cologne, cedar and smoke and male. This close, she could see the faint scar above his eyebrow. 1 year minimum. His voice dropped lower, intimate. After that, we'll renegotiate. He reached out. She flinched, but he only tucked a loose braid behind her ear. The touch was gentle, possessive. His fingers lingered against her jaw, thumb brushing her cheekbone. What exactly does this marriage entail? Something dangerous flickered in his eyes. You'll live in my penthouse, attend business functions as my wife, look beautiful on my arm, be obedient. His gaze dropped to her mouth, then dragged back up. Slow. Warm my bed when I'm in the mood. Heat flooded her face, pooling low in her belly in a way that made her want to scream. I'm not a prostitute. No. His thumb traced her bottom lip. She gasped, and his eyes darkened. You're a wife. There's a difference. Wives get legal protections, luxury, security. He leaned down, his mouth inches from her ear. And wives can't testify against their husbands in Korean court. Very convenient. Oh God, that's what this was really about. But she could feel the heat of his body, smell whiskey on his breath, could feel his hand on the arm of her chair, caging her in. Her body didn't understand the difference between fear and arousal. Her heart raced the same, heat pooled the same. I need one promise, she whispered. My family stays safe. No matter what happens, they're off limits. Forever. Silence stretched, his hand still on her chair, still close enough that she felt his heat. Then something shifted in his expression. Respect, maybe. Something darker. Agreed. He held out the pen. Sign, Mrs. Cho. Her hand shook as she took it. Their fingers brushed. Electricity shot up her arm, and his jaw tightened. She signed. Kimberly Olania became Kimberly Cho with 6 strokes of black ink. Mingi examined her signature with focused intensity. Then he looked at her, and what she saw made her breath stop. Possession, raw and absolute. Smart girl. He buttoned his suit jacket. A car will take you to my penthouse in 1 hour. Pack light. Wait, her heart stuttered. That's it? No ceremony? We're legally married as of 10 minutes ago. Judge Kim signed off this morning. He moved toward the door, paused, turned back. One rule, Kimberly. Don't embarrass me. Don't make me look weak. And don't ever try to run. Or you'll hurt my family. No. He crossed back to her in 3 strides, suddenly there, invading her space, one hand gripping the chair back, the other tilting her chin up roughly. If you run, I'll find you. I'll drag you back to Seoul personally. And when I get you home, his thumb pressed against her racing pulse. You won't sit comfortably for a week. Understand? The threat should have terrified her. It did, but her body responded like he'd made a promise. Heat flooded her. I won't run, she whispered. Good. His eyes dropped to her mouth, and for a horrifying second she thought he might kiss her. Wanted him to. Because in 1 year you're going to thank me for saving you. Then he was gone. Kimberly sat frozen, contract drying, her lips tingling. Her whole body felt electrified, terrified, confused by her response to a man who'd bought her like property. She'd just married a monster. But here's what she didn't know. Mingi had been watching her for over a year. Every Tuesday at that Nigerian restaurant in Brooklyn where she volunteered. Every morning at Columbia's library. Every Saturday at the farmer's market where she bought plantains and called her mother. He'd manufactured her father's debt, orchestrated everything, and 4 months from now she'd be 8 weeks pregnant, tied to a chair in an Incheon warehouse, watching him walk toward a bullet meant for her. But first, she had to survive moving into the penthouse of Seoul's most dangerous man. First, she had to figure out why every time he looked at her, she felt like she was burning alive. First, she had to understand that the most dangerous thing about Cho Min-gi wasn't his reputation or violence or power. It was the way he'd looked at her tonight, like she was already his, like she'd always been his, like he'd burned the world down before he let her go. The penthouse was a cage made of glass and money. Kimberly stood in the middle of Mingy's living room. No, their living room now, God help her, and tried to process the sheer wealth surrounding her. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Han River, the water reflecting Seoul's lights like scattered diamonds. Marble floors so polished she could see her reflection. Modern Korean art on the walls, bold ink paintings of tigers and dragons that seemed to watch her with predatory eyes. Everything was black, white and chrome, cold, sterile, like a beautiful mausoleum where she'd been buried alive. "Your room is upstairs." Mingy's voice came from behind her, making her jump. "Second door on the right." She turned. He'd removed his suit jacket, rolled his sleeves to his elbows. The tattoos on his forearms were fully visible now, Korean script winding around dragon scales. She caught words she didn't understand. Bogsu, revenge, Kungsong, loyalty, P, blood. "My room." Her heart kicked against her ribs. You thought what?" He moved to the bar cart, poured whiskey into a crystal glass. "That I'd drag you to my bed on our wedding night?" Something dangerous flickered across his face, almost like amusement. "I'm not a complete animal, Kimberly. You get your own space." He took a slow sip, his eyes never leaving hers. For now. For now. Those two words hung between them like a threat. Her stomach flipped. "Besides," he set the glass down with a soft click. "When I finally take you to my bed, I want you willing. Eager, even." His gaze dragged down her body slowly, deliberately. "And you will be. Eventually." Heat flooded her face, her chest, pooling low in a way that made her want to scream. The confidence in his voice wasn't arrogance, it was certainty. "That's never going to happen. We'll see." He leaned against the bar, crossing his arms. The position made his shoulders look broader, made the tattoos shift like living things. "Mrs. Chen will bring dinner at 8. She's my housekeeper. Doesn't speak English, but she's loyal." His smile was sharp. "Don't bother trying to recruit her for whatever escape plan you're formulating." "I wasn't." "Yes, you were." He closed the distance between them in 3 strides. Suddenly, he was there, invading her space, and she could smell that cedar and smoke cologne again. "You're intelligent. Columbia graduate with honors." "I did my research." His hand came up, fingers threading through one of her braids, probably already calculating exits, security weaknesses. Her breath caught. He was so close she could feel the heat radiating from his body. "Let me save you the effort." His voice dropped lower, intimate and dangerous. "This penthouse has biometric locks, armed security in the lobby, cameras everywhere." He tugged her braid gently, tilting her head back. "And if you somehow make it to the street, Seoul is very big, very confusing. Your Korean is non-existent. You'd last maybe 3 hours before someone delivered you back to me." "So I'm a prisoner. You're a wife." His free hand cupped her jaw, thumb brushing across her bottom lip. She gasped, couldn't help it, and his pupils dilated. "There's a difference." God, why did her body respond like this? Why did terror and attraction feel the same? "Rule number 2, he murmured, his mouth so close to hers she could taste whiskey on his breath. "When we're alone, you can hate me, but in public, you smile. You touch my arm. You look at me like you're desperate for me." His lips brushed her ear. "Like you can't wait for me to get you alone, understand?" She was trembling. "And if I don't? Then I'll have to find ways to motivate you." His teeth grazed her earlobe. She made a sound she'd deny later, and she felt him smile. "And trust me, Kimberly, I can be very creative, very hands-on." Then he released her, stepping back like nothing had happened, like he hadn't just made her entire body light up with terrified, unwanted desire. Her knees nearly buckled. "Dinner, 8 o'clock. Wear something nice." He grabbed his whiskey, headed toward his office, paused. "Oh, and Kimberly, welcome home, Mrs. Cho." The door closed with a soft click. But here's what you need to understand about that first night. It wasn't Mingy's threats that terrified Kimberly most. It was the way her body had responded, the way she'd leaned into his touch, the way she'd made that sound when his teeth grazed her ear. She was supposed to hate him. She did hate him. So why did her skin still burn everywhere he'd touched her? Kimberly forced herself to move, to climb the spiral staircase on shaking legs. The bedroom was beautiful, king-sized bed with silk sheets in deep burgundy, ensuite bathroom with heated floors, walk-in closet filled with clothes in her exact size, Dior, Chanel, Valentino, and lingerie, drawers full of La Perla in blacks and reds and ivory. He'd known her size, had prepared, had been planning this for months. How long had he been watching her? Her phone buzzed. Mom. Did you sign? Are we safe? Kimberly, please answer. Her chest tightened. She could picture her mother in their Atlanta kitchen, the one that always smelled like suya and chin-chin. She typed back, yes, we're safe. I love you all. Then she stared at the message thread. Every text from her family, every connection to her old life. Mingy would check. She knew he would. She deleted everything. Every message, every photo, every email, wiped her phone clean. The loss hit her like a physical blow. She sank onto the bed, and for the first time since signing that contract, she let herself cry. Silent tears she refused to let turn into sobs because he might hear. That's when she saw it, on the nightstand. A black velvet box with a note in sharp, masculine handwriting. Wear this tomorrow. Dinner with associates in Gangnam. Look beautiful. Be obedient. Make me proud. M. Her hand shook as she opened the box. A diamond necklace. Easily 6 figures worth. The stones caught the light like captured stars. The kind of jewelry that said, "You belong to me now." She snapped the box shut. A knock at the door. Mrs. Cho? An older Korean woman stood there with a tray. Small, maybe 60, with kind eyes and silver hair in a neat bun. She bowed slightly. Mrs. Chen, dinner. Thank you. Kimberly gestured for her to come in, but Mrs. Chen shook her head, pointing downstairs. Mr. Cho, waiting. Of course he was. The dining room was another space of cold luxury. Mingy sat at the head of a table that could seat 12, still in his dress shirt. He'd poured more whiskey. Sit. He gestured to the chair beside him. Not opposite. Beside. Mrs. Chen served them in silence. Bulgogi, kimchi, japchae, banchan in small dishes. The food smelled incredible. Eat, Mingy said quietly, once Mrs. Chen left. You haven't had anything since the flight. I'm not hungry. I don't care. He picked up his chopsticks. You'll eat. You'll keep your strength up. Because starting tomorrow, you have a role to play. He took a bite. Besides, Mrs. Chen will be offended if you don't. You care what your housekeeper thinks? I care about loyalty. He set down his chopsticks, turned to look at her. Mrs. Chen's husband died protecting the Cho family. I take care of her. She takes care of me. That's how my world works. Loyalty for loyalty. Something in his voice made her look at him. Really look. For just a second, she saw something underneath the cold control. Something almost human. Then it was gone. She picked up her chopsticks, tried the bulgogi. Despite everything, she was starving. They ate in silence. Then Mingy's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his jaw tightening. Tomorrow night's dinner is important, he said. Chinese investors from Shanghai. They need to see that I'm domesticated, settled. That's where you come in. I'm window dressing. You're my wife, and you'll be perfect. Not a question. The red Valentino dress in your closet, the diamonds, hair down, minimal makeup. You're beautiful enough without it. The compliment caught her off guard, made heat creep up her neck. And if I refuse? Mingy leaned closer. Then I'll dress you myself, slowly, thoroughly, and you'll remember every second of my hands on you. The image made her breath hitch, made heat pool low again. He smiled, small and knowing. See? You're already learning. She hated him, hated how he made her feel. I'll wear the dress. Good girl. He stood. Finish eating. Get rest. Tomorrow's a long day. He paused. And Kimberly? Don't even think about contacting your family. I'll know, and there will be consequences. Then he was gone. But what Mingi didn't know, what he'd discover over the next 4 months, was that Kimberly Olaniyi had spent her whole life performing, being the perfect daughter, the responsible sister, the scholarship student who had to be twice as good. She knew how to play a role. She'd play his devoted wife, wear his diamonds, smile at his associates, but she'd also watch, learn, understand his world, find leverage, find weakness, find a way to survive him. She just didn't know yet that in 4 months, she wouldn't want to escape. In 4 months, she'd be 8 weeks pregnant, tied to a chair in an Incheon warehouse, watching the man she was supposed to hate take a bullet for her. In 4 months, Cho Min-gi would stop being her captor and become the only person she trusted. But tonight, sitting alone in that cold penthouse, finishing Mrs. Chen's bulgogi with tears drying on her cheeks, all Kimberly felt was rage, and the terrifying awareness that when Min-gi touched her, her body forgot every reason it should be afraid. The red Valentino dress fit like a second skin. Kimberly stared at herself in the full-length mirror, barely recognizing the woman looking back. The dress hugged every curve, cut low enough to be elegant but dangerous. The diamonds at her throat caught the light, cold and heavy, a constant reminder of ownership. She looked like she belonged in Min-gi's world. That was the terrifying part. Beautiful. His voice came from the doorway, making her jump. Exactly what I needed. She turned. Min-gi leaned against the frame in a tailored black suit, his hair styled back, and God, he looked devastating. The kind of dangerous that made smart women stupid. Needed, she repeated, her voice sharp. Not wanted, needed. Something flickered in his eyes. With you, Kimberly, those might be the same thing. He moved into the room, circling her slowly like he was appraising merchandise. Turn around. I'm not a... Turn around. The command in his voice made her body obey before her brain caught up. She turned slowly, felt his gaze travel down her spine, over the curve of her hips, down her legs. Heat crawled up her neck. Perfect. He stopped in front of her, reaching up to adjust the diamond necklace. His fingers brushed her collarbone. She shivered, and his lips curved. Cold? No. Liar. His thumb traced along the necklace chain, following it to the hollow of her throat where her pulse hammered. Your body tells me everything your mouth won't, Mrs. Cho. He leaned closer, his breath warm against her ear. Remember the rules. Smile. Touch my arm. Look at me like you're mine. And after tonight? His hand slid to her waist, pulling her flush against him. She gasped at the sudden contact, hard muscle and heat. After tonight, we'll see how well you played your role. His other hand cupped her face, tilting her chin up. If you're convincing enough, I might reward you. I don't want your rewards. Another lie. His thumb brushed her bottom lip. You're getting better at them, though. Then he released her, stepping back. Car's waiting. Let's go make me look domesticated. The restaurant was in Cheongdam-dong, the kind of place without prices on the menu. Private room, dim lighting, traditional Korean architecture mixed with modern luxury. 3 Chinese men sat waiting. The oldest, maybe 60, with silver hair and calculating eyes, stood when they entered. Cho Min-gi. He spoke in accented English. And this must be your new wife. Kimberly. Min-gi's hand settled possessively on her lower back, burning through the thin fabric. My wife. This is Mr. Zhang Wei, CEO of Zhang Holdings, Mr. Liu Chen, his CFO, and Mr. Wang Jun, head of operations. She smiled, extending her hand. It's a pleasure. Zhang Wei took her hand, holding it too long. His eyes traveled over her face, down to the diamonds, back up, something predatory in his gaze. Min-gi didn't mention his wife was so... striking. Min-gi's hand on her back tightened. I'm a lucky man. He guided her to her seat, pulling out her chair, the perfect gentleman, then sat beside her, close enough that his thigh pressed against hers. The servers brought soju, wine, and course after course. Jeonbukjeok, Hanwoo beef, gaejang. Jiang Wei dominated the conversation, occasionally switching to Mandarin with his associates. Testing them, Kimberly realized, watching for reactions. So, Mrs. Cho, Jiang Wei refilled her wine glass. How did you and Mingi meet? Love at first sight? The question was a trap. She could feel it. But here's where 4 years at Columbia had prepared her. She'd spent her entire degree navigating rooms full of people trying to prove she didn't belong. This was just another performance she knew how to give. She placed her hand on Mingi's arm, felt his muscle tense. Actually, my father introduced us. He believed Mingi would be a good match. She looked up at Mingi through her lashes, letting warmth bleed into her voice. He was right. Mingi's eyes darkened. His hand found her knee under the table, squeezed once. His palm seared through her skin. Traditional, Jiang Wei observed. I appreciate that. Too many young people forget the importance of family arrangement. He leaned back, studying them. Though passion helps, yes? We're very compatible, Mingi said quietly, his hand sliding higher on her thigh. Just an inch, just enough to make her breath catch. In every way that matters. The double meaning wasn't lost on anyone. Heat flooded Kimberly's face. I can see that. Jiang Wei smiled like a shark. Tell me, Mrs. Cho, what do you think of soul? Must be quite different from... Where are you from? Africa. The casual racism made her jaw tighten, but Mingi's hand squeezed her thigh. Play the game. I'm Nigerian-American. From Atlanta originally. Soul is beautiful. Different from home, yes. But Mingi has made the transition easy. She turned to look at her husband, softening her voice. He's very... attentive. Mingi's eyes locked on hers. For a second, something real passed between them. Something that wasn't performance. His hand on her thigh burned hotter. Liu Chen said something in Mandarin, smirking. Kimberly didn't understand the words, but she caught her own name, caught the dismissive tone. The way Jiang Wei's expression shifted. Uncomfortable. Warning. Mingi's entire body went rigid beside her. His hand on her thigh tightened almost painfully. He replied in Mandarin, his voice deadly soft, and the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Whatever he'd said made Liu Chen's smirk disappear, made Wang Jun look away. Jiang Wei laughed, loud and genuine. I like you, Mingi. You have fire. He raised his glass. To successful partnerships, business and personal. They toasted. Under the table, Mingi's thumb drew small circles on her inner thigh, soothing, possessive. The dinner continued another hour. Business talk, shipping routes, distribution networks, profit margins. But she played her role, smiled, touched Mingi's arm, laughed softly at appropriate times. And every time Jiang Wei's gaze lingered too long, Mingi's touch became more possessive. Hand on her back, fingers threading through hers on the table. Once his lips brushing her temple in a gesture so tender it made her chest ache. It was all performance. It had to be. So why did it feel real? You want to know what's dangerous? Not the threats. Not the violence. It's the moments when the monster shows you something human underneath. When his touch feels protective instead of possessive, when you start forgetting which parts are real and which parts are the game, that's when you're really in trouble. The car ride back was silent, tense. Mingi stared out the window, jaw tight, one hand drumming against his thigh. You did well tonight, he said finally. Thank you. Jiang Wei wanted you. Not a question, a statement. Did you notice? Yes. And? He turned to look at her, eyes unreadable in the passing streetlights. And nothing. I'm not interested in Chinese investors. That's not what I asked. His hand shot out, gripping her chin, forcing her to face him. I asked if you liked it, the attention, the power. Her heart hammered. No. Why not? The question caught her off guard. Because I don't want him. Then who do you want, Kimberly? His voice dropped to that dangerous whisper, thumb brushing her jawline. Or are you still pretending you don't feel this? She couldn't breathe. His face was so close, his eyes dark with hunger. I hate you, she whispered. I know. His thumb traced her bottom lip. But you still want me. Your body doesn't lie." The car stopped. They were home. Mingi released her, climbing out without another word, left her sitting there, shaking, her lips tingling. Inside the penthouse, he poured whiskey, drank it in one swallow. "Go to bed, Kimberly." Mingi, go to bed. He didn't turn around. "Before I do something we'll both regret." She should have run, should have locked her door. Instead, what happened tonight with Liu Chen? What did he say? Mingi's shoulders tensed. Long silence. Then, "He said you were beautiful, that I'd tire of you soon, that foreign wives never last. And you defended me." "I defended what's mine." He turned, and the look in his eyes made her stomach flip. Raw, possessive, dangerous. "You're my wife, Kimberly. Mine, and no one gets to disrespect what belongs to me, ever." The intensity should have scared her. Instead, heat pooled low in her belly, made her take a step toward him. "I'm not property," she whispered. "No." He closed the distance in 2 strides, backing her against the wall, one hand pressed beside her head, the other gripping her waist. "You're so much more valuable than property. You're—" He stopped, jaw working like he was fighting words he couldn't say. "I'm what?" "Go upstairs." His voice strained. "Before I cross a line, I promised myself I wouldn't cross. Not yet, not until you're ready." "What if I—" She stopped, shocked at her own words. Mingi's eyes darkened impossibly further. Don't finish that sentence unless you mean it." They stood frozen, breathing hard, electric air between them. Then Kimberly did the smart thing. She ran upstairs. But here's what kept her awake that night. It wasn't fear. It wasn't rage. It was the memory of his hand on her thigh, his lips on her temple, the way he'd said mine like it was a vow, and the terrifying realization that some part of her had liked it, had wanted him to cross that line, had almost begged him to. 3 weeks into the marriage, Kimberly discovered Mingi's secret. It was an accident, really. She'd been looking for aspirin in his office. He told her the first aid kit was in the bottom drawer when her hand brushed against something cold and metal. Not a first aid kit. A badge. National Intelligence Service. Her heart stopped. She pulled it out with trembling hands. The ID photo showed Mingi, but the name read Park Ji-hoon, Agent, Deep Cover Operations. "Find what you were looking for." She spun around. Ji-hoon, leaned against the doorframe, his expression unreadable. Not angry, not surprised, almost relieved? "Who are you?" Her voice shook. "Your name isn't even Mingi?" He stepped into the office, closed the door behind him, locked it. "My real name is Park Ji-hoon. I'm NIS, deep cover for 6 years in the Cho organization." He moved to the bar cart, poured 2 whiskeys, held one out to her. "You look like you need this." She took it automatically, her mind spinning. "Deep cover. You're not actually a Mafia boss?" "I am, and I'm not." He took a slow sip. "The Cho family murdered my parents and younger sister when I was 19, burned our house down in Busan because my father witnessed something he shouldn't have." His jaw tightened. "I've spent the last 6 years building a case to destroy them from the inside." Kimberly sank into the leather chair, her legs giving out. "Then why?" She looked up at him. "Why the marriage? Why my father's debt? Why me?" "Your father's debt was manufactured." He said it so casually, like he hadn't just shattered her world again. "I needed a wife. Someone outside the criminal world. Someone I could trust." He crouched in front of her chair, his eyes intense. "Someone they couldn't use against me. So you orchestrated everything." Her hands shook so badly the whiskey sloshed. "The gambling. The debt. You manipulated my entire family just to protect you." His hand covered hers, steadying the glass. "If the real Cho family suspected I was undercover, they'd look for leverage. A girlfriend, a lover, anyone I cared about." His thumb stroked across. Her knuckles. "A contractual wife forced into marriage by debt? That's just business. That doesn't make me look weak." The logic was horrifying. Perfect. Horrifying. "You've been lying to me for 3 weeks." "Yes." "You've been watching me for over a year." "Yes." You destroyed my father's life, forced me into this marriage, made me—" Her voice cracked. "Made me think you were a monster when you're, what, some kind of undercover hero?" "I'm not a hero, Kimberly." His voice went hard. "I've done things to maintain this cover. Terrible things. Things that keep me awake at night." He stood, moving to the window. "I've hurt people. Killed people. The blood on my hands is real, even if the name isn't." She should run, should scream, should feel something other than this strange relief flooding her chest. "Does anyone else know?" she asked quietly. "My handler at NIS. That's it." He turned back to face her. "And now you, which means you're in danger, Kimberly. Real danger. If anyone in the Cho organization suspects, they'll kill me. They'll kill us both." He crossed back to her, pulled her to her feet. His hands gripped her shoulders. "This is why I needed you to play the role perfectly. Why I pushed you at that dinner. Why I've been—" He stopped, his jaw working. "Been what?" "Been trying so damn hard not to care about you." He released her suddenly, stepping back like she'd burned him. "You should hate me more now, not less. I'm not the lesser evil here, Kimberly. I'm just evil with a badge." But here's what you need to understand about finding out someone's been lying to you. Sometimes the truth underneath makes everything worse, or better, or so complicated you can't tell the difference anymore. Because Kimberly had spent 3 weeks falling for a monster. Now she had to reconcile that with the broken man standing in front of her, seeking revenge for his murdered family. "Are you—" She stood, her voice steadier than she felt. "Evil? Because the man who defended me to Liu Chen, who makes sure Mrs. Chen is taken care of, who looks at me like—" She stopped, her cheeks heating. "Like what?" His voice dropped to that dangerous whisper. "Like I'm not just part of the plan." The air between them went electric, charged, dangerous in a completely different way. "You're not," he said finally, the words seeming to cost him something. "You haven't been for a while now, that's the problem." Her heart hammered. "What do you mean?" "I mean—" He moved closer, backing her against the desk. I watched you for a year and told myself it was reconnaissance, research, due diligence." His hands came up to frame her face. "I told myself you were perfect because you were smart, educated, had family I could leverage. And the truth? The truth is, I couldn't stop watching you." His thumb traced her bottom lip. "The way you laughed with the old Nigerian women at that restaurant, how you'd bite your lip when studying, the way you'd buy extra plantains at the market to give to the homeless guy on the corner." His forehead pressed against hers. "The truth is, I've been obsessed with you since the first time I saw you, and manufacturing your father's debt was the only way I could think of to make you mine." The confession should have horrified her. Instead, heat flooded her body, made her lean into him. "That's insane," she whispered. "I know." His lips brushed her jaw. "I know it's wrong. I know I'm fucked up for wanting you this badly when I bought you like property." His teeth grazed her neck, making her gasp. "When I lied to you, when I'm still lying to everyone else." "Jihoon." His real name felt strange on her tongue, intimate. He groaned at the sound. Don't say my real name unless you want me to stop pretending I can keep my hands off you." She should say no, should push him away. Instead, her hands fisted in his shirt. "What if I don't want you to pretend?" His eyes went black, pupils blown wide. "Kimberly, you said you wanted me willing." Her voice came out breathy. "I'm willing." For a second, he just stared at her. Then something shifted in his expression, raw hunger mixed with something that looked like reverence. His mouth found hers, not crashing, not desperate, slow, deliberate, like he was memorizing the taste of her. His hands cupped her face gently, thumbs stroking her cheekbones, while his lips moved against hers with devastating precision. She melted into him, her hands sliding up his chest to his shoulders. He kissed her like she was precious, like she was the only good thing in his dark world. When he finally pulled back, they were both breathing hard. "I want to do this right," he whispered against her lips. "Not in my office, not rushed, not—" His thumb traced her swollen bottom lip. "You deserve better than a quick fuck on a desk, Kimberly. You deserve you." She pulled him back to her. "I just want you, real you, Ji-hoon." His control cracked. He kissed her again, deeper this time, hungrier, his hands sliding down her sides, pulling her flush against him. She could feel his heart hammering, matching hers. "Upstairs," he growled against her mouth. "My room, now." He lifted her, her legs wrapped around his waist instinctively, and carried her out of the office, down the hall, up the stairs. He kissed her the entire way, only breaking contact to navigate doors. His bedroom was masculine, dark wood, navy sheets, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul. He set her down gently beside the bed, his hands trembling slightly as they framed her face again. "Last chance," he said, his voice rough. "Tell me to stop, and I will. I swear I will. I don't want you to stop." She reached for the buttons on his shirt. "I want this. I want you." His hands covered hers, stilling them. "This changes everything. You understand that? Once we cross this line..." "We already crossed the line when you made me your wife." She looked up at him. "When you defended me. When you looked at me like I mattered. We crossed it weeks ago, Ji-hoon. We just didn't admit it." Something in his expression broke, softened. "You matter," he whispered fiercely. "You matter more than the mission, more than revenge, more than..." He stopped, shaking his head. "I don't know when it happened, but you became the most important thing in my world." Then he kissed her again, and this time there was no hesitation, no holding back. His hands explored, memorized, worshipped, and when they finally came together, skin against skin, breath mingling, hearts racing in sync, it wasn't the Mafia boss and his contract wife, it was Park Ji-hoon and Kimberly Alania, two people who'd found something real in the middle of lies and danger and impossible circumstances, two people who had no business falling for each other but did anyway. Later, she lay in his arms, her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat slow. "What happens now?" she whispered. His hand stroked through her braids. "Now we're even more careful. No one can know about us, about this." He tilted her chin up. "In public, we're still the arranged marriage. Cold, professional, but here..." He kissed her forehead. "Here, you're mine. Really mine. And when the mission ends, then we figure out what comes next. Together." His arms tightened around her. "I'm not letting you go, Kimberly. Not now, not ever." She wanted to believe him, wanted to believe they could survive what was coming. But a small voice in her head whispered, nothing this good lasts in his world. She just didn't know how right that voice would be, or how wrong. 4 months was exactly how long it took for Kimberly to forget she was supposed to hate Park Ji-hoon. 1 month to learn his real name. 2 months to fall in love with the man behind the mask. 3 months to realize she'd do anything to protect him. And 4 months to discover she was carrying his child while tied to a chair in an Incheon warehouse with a gun to her head. Month 1, the truth. The night Ji-hoon told her the truth, everything changed. "My real name is Park Ji-hoon. I'm NIS, deep cover for 6 years." She'd found his badge by accident, and instead of more lies, he'd given her everything. His murdered family in Busan, his years of building a case, his plan to destroy the Cho organization from the inside. "Your father's debt was manufactured," he'd admitted, his voice raw. "I needed a wife, someone I could trust, someone they couldn't use against me." The orchestration should have made her hate him more. Instead, it made a terrible kind of sense. And when he'd looked at her with those haunted eyes and said, "You weren't supposed to matter this much," something inside her cracked open. They'd made love that night. Slow, desperate, real, and she'd started falling. Month 2, the shift. Ji-hoon came home early one Tuesday, found her in the kitchen with Mrs. Chen learning to make kimchi jjigae. Kimberly was laughing at her terrible Korean pronunciation, her hands covered in pepper paste, completely unguarded. He'd stopped in the doorway, just watching. When Mrs. Chen left, he crossed to her and kissed her like he'd been drowning and she was air. "What was that for?" she asked. "I love you." He said it simply. "Certainly. I've been in love with you since I watched you give your coat to a homeless woman last February, since before I ever spoke to you." His hands cupped her face. "I'm tired of pretending I don't." She should have been angry about the year of surveillance, the manipulation. Instead, "I love you too. God help me, but I do." That night, they stopped being careful, his hands trembling as he touched her, her name on his lips like a prayer. And somewhere in the heat and need and desperate love, protection became an afterthought. But here's what nobody tells you about happiness in dangerous places. It makes you a target. The moment you have something to lose is the moment someone starts planning to take it from you. Month 3. The suspicion. Jae-sung started watching them too closely. Ji-hoon noticed first. "He knows something. I don't know what, but he's suspicious." "Then we're more careful," Kimberly said. "Maybe you should leave Seoul. Go back to Atlanta until this is over." "No." She took his hands. "We're in this together." He pulled her close. "If something happens to you because of me, then we deal with it together." But Jae-sung's attention didn't waver. He made comments about how different Mingi seemed. "Softer," he'd said once, eyes calculating. He asked too many questions about their marriage, watched them during business dinners like he was solving a puzzle. Ji-hoon had NI sweep their bedroom weekly for surveillance, clean every time. They thought they were safe. They were wrong. Month 4, the discovery. Kimberly missed her period. At first, she blamed stress, but then came the nausea, the exhaustion. The way smells made her queasy. Ji-hoon's cologne, Mrs. Chen's kimchi, coffee that used to be her lifeline. She bought a pregnancy test 3 days ago, hid it in her purse. Couldn't bring herself to take it because knowing made it real, made everything more complicated, more dangerous, more permanent. This morning, she finally worked up the courage. 2 pink lines, clear, unmistakable, positive. 8 weeks, according to the timeline. 8 weeks since that night when they'd stopped being careful. 8 weeks since love had overridden caution. She was pregnant with Park Ji-hoon's baby. Her hand moved to her stomach, still flat, no sign yet, and terror mixed with joy. A baby, their baby, growing in the middle of lies and danger and impossible circumstances. She'd hidden the test back in her purse. She'd tell him tonight, after his meeting in Gangnam, when they were safe and alone and she could see his face when she gave him the news. But then her phone had buzzed at 2 p.m. Unknown number. Unknown. "Your husband is walking into a trap in Incheon Warehouse District. If you want to save him, come now alone. I'll send the address." Every instinct screamed trap. She tried calling Ji-hoon, straight to voicemail. Director Han's emergency line, no answer. The NIS contact, nothing. Second text, Warehouse 47, Incheon Port District. "You have 1 hour. Come alone or he dies." Love makes you stupid, makes you ignore logic and run toward danger because the alternative is sitting safely while someone you love dies alone. Kimberly grabbed her purse, pregnancy test still inside, and ran. The taxi ride to Incheon took 40 minutes of prayer and panic. The warehouse district was industrial, empty, salt water and rust heavy in the cold air. Warehouse 47 sat at the end of a row, door slightly ajar. She heard his voice. Ji-hoon, speaking Korean, angry. She peeked through the gap. Her heart stopped. Ji-hoon was on his knees in the center of the empty space, hands behind his head, gun on the floor 10 feet away, completely out of reach. Jae-sung stood behind him, gun pressed to the back of Ji-hoon's head. 5 other men formed a semicircle, weapons drawn. "You really thought you could fool me?" Jae-sung's voice echoed. "I've known for 2 months, Hyung-nim, known that you're NIS, known that your marriage is real, not just business, known that you've been building a case against us." 2 months, right after she and Ji-hoon had confessed their love. "How?" Ji-hoon's voice was steady, resigned. "Cameras," Jae-sung laughed. "In your bedroom. Installed them 8 weeks ago when I first started suspecting. Got some very interesting footage. You and your wife. Very intimate, very much in love." He pressed the gun harder. "The great Cho Min-gi brought down by a woman. Poetic. 8 weeks, the same timeline as her pregnancy. Kimberly's hand flew to her mouth, stifling a gasp. "Where is she?" Ji-hoon asked quietly. "Your wife? On her way. I sent her a very convincing text." Jae-sung checked his watch. "She should be here in about 3 minutes. Love makes people so predictable." "She won't come." But Ji-hoon's voice held no conviction. "She's smarter than that." "Is she? Because I've been watching her too. That woman would walk through fire for you." Jae-sung moved to face Ji-hoon. "And you're about to watch her die because of it." Kimberly's phone buzzed. "Walk in now or I shoot him in the head." She looked at her purse, at the pregnancy test inside, at the future they might never have. Then she pushed the door open, walked inside, head high, terrified but refusing to show it. "Kimberly, no," Ji-hoon's voice broke. "There she is." Jae-sung smiled. "Right on time." He gestured. "Tie her up, metal chair against the wall." They grabbed her, zip ties biting into her wrists, shoved her into a chair, secured her ankles. And that's how, 4 months after signing a contract to save her family, Kimberly ended up exactly where we started. Tied to a chair, gun to her head, 8 weeks pregnant with a secret. She hadn't told anyone yet. Watching the only man she'd ever loved kneel helplessly 10 feet away. Jae-sung circled them like a predator. "You really thought you could play me?" His breath reeked of soju and rage. "That I wouldn't find out what he really is?" He yanked Kimberly's head back by her braids, the gun pressed cold against her temple. "Let her go, Jae-sung." Ji-hoon's voice was deadly quiet. "Your fight is with me." "Oh, young Nim." Jae-sung's smile turned cruel. "My fight is with both of you now." He leaned closer to Kimberly, his voice dropping. "Does she know the real reason you married her? Does she know what you actually are?" Ji-hoon's eyes locked on Kimberly's across the warehouse floor, and in that look she saw everything: desperation, love, terror, regret. "She knows everything," Ji-hoon said quietly. "Does she?" Jae-sung pressed the gun harder against Kimberly's temple. "Does she know you've been watching her for over a year? That her father's debt was manufactured? That you orchestrated this entire marriage like some sick fairy tale?" The words were meant to hurt, to divide them. But Kimberly had known all of this for 3 months, had chosen to love him anyway. "Yes," she said clearly, meeting Ji-hoon's eyes. "I know, and I chose him anyway." Something flickered across Jae-sung's face. Confusion, rage. "Then you're both fools." His finger moved to the trigger. "And you'll die together." But Kimberly had one more card to play, one secret that might buy them time. "Wait," she said. "There's something you should know, something that changes everything." Jae-sung paused. "What?" She lifted her chin, met his eyes. "I'm pregnant. 8 weeks. So when you kill me, you're killing his child too. And that," she let the implication hang, "that makes you something worse than a traitor. That makes you a monster who murders pregnant women." For just a second, uncertainty flickered across Jae-sung's face, and Kimberly realized she'd just given Ji-hoon the opening he'd been waiting for. The question was, would it be enough to save them? Or had she just sealed all 3 of their fates? The moment Kimberly said, "I'm pregnant," everything changed. Jae-sung's finger hesitated on the trigger, just for a second, just long enough. Ji-hoon moved. He was 10 feet away, on his knees, hands behind his head. But he'd spent 6 years in this world. 6 years learning to fight dirty, move fast, survive impossible odds. His body twisted, his elbow slammed into the knee of the man closest to him. The guard stumbled, gun dropping. Ji-hoon grabbed it mid-fall, rolled, came up firing. 3 shots, 3 men down before Jae-sung could react. Jae-sung's gun swung toward Kimberly's head. Ji-hoon didn't hesitate, didn't calculate, didn't think. He threw himself between her and the bullet. The shot was deafening in the enclosed space. The impact spun Ji-hoon sideways. He stumbled but didn't fall. The bullet had caught, his side at an angle, carving a deep graze across his ribs instead of punching through. Lucky, impossibly lucky. 6 inches to the left and he'd be dead. His return fire hit Jae-sung's shoulder, spinning him away from Kimberly. The gun clattered across concrete. Then the warehouse exploded with sound. Tactical teams flooding through every entrance. NIS agents in full gear. Red laser sights painting targets. Director Han's voice shouting commands in Korean. The remaining men surrendered immediately. Hands up. Weapons down. It was over in seconds. But Ji-hoon was on his knees, his hand pressed to his side where blood soaked through his shirt. Dark. Too much. His face had gone pale. Ji-hoon! Kimberly fought against the zip ties, panic clawing up her throat. Someone cut me loose. Please. An agent rushed over, sliced through the plastic. She lunged toward Ji-hoon, her hands shaking as she reached for him. I'm okay, he said, but his voice was strained, tight with pain. Just grazed. Looks worse than it is. You're bleeding everywhere. Her hands hovered over the wound, afraid to touch, afraid to make it worse. You need you. He caught her wrist with his bloodied hand, pulled her close despite the pain. His other hand moved immediately to her stomach, pressing there gently, checking, needing to feel. Are you hurt? Did the baby? I'm fine, we're both fine, but you... Her voice cracked. You took a bullet for us. I'd take 100. His thumb stroked across her stomach even as blood stained his fingers. For both of you, every single time. Director Han crouched beside them, his expression carefully neutral but his eyes sharp. Medics are 30 seconds out. Agent Park, you just took down 5 armed men while unarmed and on your knees. That was... He shook his head. Reckless, brilliant, completely insane. All 3. Ji-hoon tried to smile, winced instead. But they're safe. That's what matters. The case? Kimberly asked, her hand covering Ji-hoon's on her stomach, needing the contact. Airtight. Director Han gestured to the agents processing the scene. Between Jae-sung's surveillance footage and 6 years of evidence, we have everything. Leadership is being arrested across Seoul, Busan, Incheon as we speak. The entire Cho network is finished. 6 years. It was finally over. But here's the thing about surviving trauma. Your body doesn't realize you're safe right away. The adrenaline keeps pumping. The fear keeps clawing. And when it finally crashes, it crashes hard. Kimberly felt it start as the medics rushed in, her hands trembling, her breath coming too fast. The full weight of what had almost happened crushing down on her chest like concrete. Hey! Ji-hoon's voice cut through the panic, steady despite his pain. Look at me, just me, breathe with me, in, out, that's it. You're safe. I've got you. She focused on his face, on his steady breathing despite the wound, on the warmth of his hand, still pressed protectively to her stomach. I thought I'd lost you, she whispered. You didn't. I'm right here. We're all right here. He leaned his forehead against hers carefully. We made it, Kimberly. We actually made it. The medics tried to separate them to treat Ji-hoon's wound, but he refused until they examined Kimberly first. I'm pregnant, she told the female medic quietly, urgently. 8 weeks. I was kidnapped, tied up, so scared. I need to know if my baby's okay. Please. The medic's expression softened immediately. She did a quick examination. Pulse, blood pressure, gentle palpation of Kimberly's abdomen. Heart rate is elevated, but that's normal given the circumstances. Any cramping? Any bleeding? No, nothing like that. Good, that's very good. But you need a full ultrasound at the hospital to be certain. Stress can affect pregnancy, but right now everything feels normal. She turned to Ji-hoon, who was looking increasingly pale, his shirt completely soaked through with blood. And you need that wound cleaned, sutured, and properly assessed. You're lucky. The angle saved your life. But you've lost a lot of blood. This time, Ji-hoon didn't argue. He let them load him onto the stretcher, but his hand never left Kimberly's. His fingers threaded through hers, gripped tight like he was anchoring himself to reality through her touch. Don't let go, he whispered as they moved toward the ambulance. Never. She climbed in beside him, their hands clasped between them like a lifeline. We survived this together. We survive everything together now. His eyes held hers. Dark and intense, and full of everything he couldn't say with the medics working around them. But she felt it anyway. The love, the relief, the desperate gratitude that they were both still breathing. "I love you," he mouthed silently. "I love you too," she whispered back, squeezing his hand tighter. The hospital was controlled chaos, NIS agents securing the entire floor, police taking preliminary statements, reporters being held back by security, all shouting questions about the massive organized crime takedown. Ji-hoon's wound required surgery. What had looked like a graze was actually deeper, had damaged muscle tissue and nicked a blood vessel that needed surgical repair. Serious, but not fatal. Not anymore. Kimberly refused to leave his side until they wheeled him into the OR. Even then, she only moved because a nurse physically guided her to the surgical waiting area. Director Han appeared with coffee she couldn't drink and updates she desperately needed. "Your family in Atlanta has been notified," he said quietly. "They're safe, under protective custody until the trials are complete. Your father wanted me to tell you—" He paused. "He wanted me to tell you he's sorry. For everything. He should be." But the anger felt distant, less important than it had 4 months ago. "Will they come? To Seoul? If you want them to, we can arrange transport once Agent Park is stable." Kimberly pressed both hands to her stomach. "I don't know. I need to think about it." "Take your time. The Cho organization is finished. The immediate danger is over. You're safe now." Director Han studied her. "What Agent Park did today, throwing himself in front of that bullet, that's not standard NIS protocol." No, standard protocol is neutralize the threat first, protect the asset second." His expression softened. "He protected you first, didn't even hesitate. That's not training. That's love." Kimberly's eyes burned with unshed tears. "I know." A doctor emerged from the surgical wing 2 hours later. "Mrs. Park, your husband is out of surgery, stable. The wound required significant repair, but barring infection, he should make a full recovery." Relief flooded through her so intensely her knees nearly buckled. "Can I see him?" "He's asking for you. Wouldn't settle until we promised to bring you in." She followed the doctor down sterile hallways to recovery. Ji-hoon looked pale against the white sheets, an IV in his arm, monitors beeping steadily, but his eyes were clear, alert, and when he saw her, his entire face softened with relief and love. "Hey," he whispered, his voice rough from intubation. "Hey yourself." She took the chair beside his bed, threading her fingers through his carefully, avoiding the IV line. "You scared me. Sorry." His thumb stroked across her knuckles weakly. "The baby?" "I have an ultrasound scheduled in an hour. They want to make sure everything's okay after everything. Go now, don't wait for me. I'm not doing this without you." She squeezed his hand. "They're bringing a portable ultrasound machine here. We find out together." Something in his expression cracked. Gratitude and love and overwhelming emotion. Together. Always. The ultrasound technician wheeled in equipment 30 minutes later, set everything up while Ji-hoon watched from his hospital bed, his hand never leaving Kimberly's, cold gel on her still flat stomach, the wand pressing against her skin, both of them holding their breath, terrified and hopeful in equal measure. Then sound, fast, strong, steady. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. "There." The technician smiled, pointing to the screen. "That's your baby's heartbeat, 162 beats per minute. Perfect, and see here." She adjusted the wand, and a tiny shape appeared on the grainy black and white screen. "This is your baby, 8 weeks gestational age. Everything looks exactly as it should." Kimberly's vision blurred with tears. "The baby's really okay?" "Your baby is fine, resilient. The stress affected you, but at this stage, babies are well protected." She printed several images. "I want to see you back in 4 weeks for a follow-up, but right now, everything is healthy and developing normally." Ji-hoon made a sound, half laugh, half sob. His hand tightened on Kimberly's, his eyes locked on that tiny, flickering heartbeat on the screen. "That's our baby," he whispered in wonder. "That's really our baby." "That's our baby," Kimberly confirmed, tears streaming down her face. The technician left them alone with the ultrasound photos. Ji-hoon held them with shaking hands, tracing the tiny shape with one finger. "I can't believe," his voice broke. "After everything, after almost losing you both." "We're here. We're okay, all three of us." She leaned down carefully, pressed her lips to his. Soft, sweet, grateful. "We made it, Ji-hoon." He kissed her back, his free hand cupping her face, thumb brushing away her tears. "We made it," he repeated, like he was trying to convince himself it was real. When they finally broke apart, she rested her forehead against his, both of them breathing the same air, sharing the same space, tethered together by love and relief and miracle. "I love you," he whispered. "Park Ji-hoon loves Kimberly Park. No more lies, no more covers, just us." "Just us," she agreed. "And baby." He smiled, real and bright and full of hope. "And baby." 3 months and 1 week later. Kimberly stood in the nursery of their new home, a house in a quiet Seoul neighborhood, far from the penthouse and its shadows, arranging tiny onesies in the dresser. 21 weeks pregnant now, properly showing, her belly round and unmistakable. Ji-hoon appeared in the doorway, leaning against the frame, just watching her with that look he got sometimes. The one that said he still couldn't quite believe this was real, that she was